recording, and I think we can start off the session, and it's already a bit late. So let me share my screen here. Yeah, I hope you guys can see my screen. So yesterday we completed your Git and GitHub, and then we started off with your Docker. So we looked at what's your containerization, what are the different tools you have, or rather, actually we had started off with your Docker. Sorry. So we looked at your Docker file, the different instructions we have in the Docker file. Then we looked at your Docker Compose. Then we looked at your Docker network. And then I think that is where we had stopped. Yes. Any questions? Any queries?
No,
Not
Ravi.
from my end.
Okay. So the next thing we are going to look at is the Docker events. Now, see, generally Docker events can be used when you want to see the real-time events of your containers. For example, let's say, someone starts a container. Now you want to get to know about that in real time. You can make use of your Docker events for that. So it's basically any action or any operation that happens with your Docker. We can see the events for that. So these are your real-time events. So for example, sorry. So let's say, for example, we will do this. So Docker run -dit and then let's say Jenkins. So this will start a container for me. So in the backend, so Docker gets this instruction and then it will start the container. But then I want to see the event of this. When I say event, what exactly my Docker is doing. So in the backend, what happens is Docker will first look for the image. If the image is there, it will start the container. If the image is not there, it will download the image and then start the container. So all those events, all those operations, if you want to see in real time, we can make use of your Docker events for that. Okay, so this is it's a nice tool when you want to monitor your events. You make use of this. Now there are lots of options that you can pass with this. You can use a filter. That is, if you want to, by default, your events will show you everything. But let's say you want to monitor only containers which are using a particular image, for example, Ubuntu image, or you want to monitor only a particular network, then you can make use of your filter option for that. Format can be used to specify your own custom format. Since can be used, from certain days, like let's say last 1 week or last 2 weeks, if you want to see the events. And then until is, it's a between, from and to, until. So for that you can use. So there are different options that you can pass. So for example, here if you see Docker events and then since this date, so it will only show us the events from this particular date or the last 10 minutes. This is your filter. So I'm telling only show me the events for this particular image or show me the event only for the network, right? So it will filter those events for you. And this is your format. So by default, it will show you a lot of information. But if you want the data in a certain format, then you can pass this. Okay. So basically, it's your real-time monitoring, real-time events of your containers. For that, we make use of your Docker events. Any questions?
No, Ravi.
Okay. And then the last we have is a Docker Swarm or Docker services. So see, we know that your Kubernetes is an orchestration tool, right? Docker also has an orchestration tool, which is a Docker Swarm. So if you want to set up a multi-system cluster, you can make use of your Docker Swarm for that. So Docker Swarm, that's your basically a group of either physical or virtual machines that are running Docker application and have been configured to join together in a cluster. So basically under this, you'll have multiple machines and these machines will be connected with each other. And then you can start running your containers across these machines. So this collection of machines together, we call it as a Docker Swarm. Generally, when we talk about a Docker Swarm, it has three key concepts. So we have the swarm, which is simply a collection of multiple hosts. So multiple machines together, we call it as your swarm. And then we have your nodes, which is individual machines. Could be your manager machine, could be your worker machine. So these individual machines, we call it as your nodes. Then you have the service. So service is your containers, the instructions that we are going to give to the manager machine or the worker machine. That file, the instructions, we call it as services. and then you have the task, which is nothing but a container. So the services, it's basically a collection of containers, and then individual container, we call it as your tasks. Okay, it's basically a breakdown of the different components that you have, but this is how it will be. So you'll have one manager machine, and then you'll have lots of worker machine, and then these worker machines will be connected to the manager machine. Now you can have multiple manager machines, you can have multiple worker machines, but one worker machine can be part of only one manager machine at a time. So for example, here, if you see, this machine can be part of only this manager. Now, if you want this machine to be part of other managers, you'll have to first leave this manager and then work for other managers. So you can, same as how we work at an organization level. At a time, we can report to only one manager, right? We cannot have multiple managers. The same way, we have your Docker Swarm as well, your manager worker configuration. Questions?
No, Ravi.
No, Ravi. So to begin with this, generally, we'll have to first create your Docker Swarm. So for that, we can make use of the Docker Swarm init, which is to initialize our Docker Swarm. Okay. Then once you do this, what happens is it marks. So wherever the machine you're running this command, that machine will be marked as your manager machine. And then you can start adding your remote machines. So when you create this swarm, it generates a token for us. Using that token, you can start joining your worker machines. Post that, once you have your worker machine and manager machine connected, you can start creating your services. Like here, if you see Docker service create, and then I'm telling I want to create 3 containers, the name of your container and which image you want to use. So this will go ahead and create 3 containers for us. And based on your worker machine, so if you have 3 worker machines, each of the worker machine will have 1 container. So it will get spread automatically. If you have 2 worker machines, it follows a round robin. So machine 1, container 1, machine 2, container 2, again machine 1, container 3. So it follows your round robin model. Okay. So basically it's your multi-machine architecture where you can spread your containers. That's where we make use of your Docker Swarm. Questions?
No, Ravi.
Okay. So pretty much that's all we covered with your Docker. The next thing, the next tool I want to start off is your Ansible. I know we had started with your Kubernetes, but then I thought doing Ansible would be better. Kubernetes, I'll be covering it once again, so we'll do that at a later point. So the next thing we are going to talk about is your Ansible. So any idea what is your Ansible tool, what it does, why we use it? Okay.
No, Ravi.
Any idea what is configuration management? Okay. So imagine you have, thousands of machine in your organization or in your project. Let's say you're using 1,000 EC2 instances. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry, just give me a moment. Sorry. So imagine you have thousands of machines that you're using in your project. And on all of these machines, you have Java or Python or some software which is running. Now, you have been asked that, there is a bug in the current version of maybe let's say Java or Python or whatever you are running. And you have been asked to upgrade that to a latest version. Now, what will be your approach? How will you go about upgrading this software in all of the 1,000 machines? What do you think? How will you do it?
It's really difficult, like, to log into that machine or container and then install the application. So,
So what will you do? Yes, it is difficult. So what's other option you have?
Writing some codes and adding to that.
That's one way. So
Uh,
this is,
using
yeah, sorry, Sylvia.
using cloud platform.
I
so
mean,
if we can create one image and then, like, install all the application, and then we can duplicate, we can export that image and then run that image as.
but then, if you're doing that, you'll have to terminate the image and then, terminate the instances and then launch new instances. So, there's a downtime that will be associated. Imagine you had application running on them,
Mhm.
right? So what happens? Your application will be down, right? So until your new instance does not come up, you configure your application, there's a downtime associated with it, right?
Yeah.
So for this purpose, we make use of your configuration management tools. So under this, basically, you'll have a tool and you'll write a script and then you'll start executing that script on all of your machines. One example I can give you is we have our working machines, right? Your laptops. Now you have your Corp IT, right? So let's say we are using OpenVPN tool. Now we don't have to update the tool. The Corp IT team takes care of it. How do they do it? They don't connect to individual machines and do it. They make use of some tool, right? So they basically update all the machines in one single shot. So that's basically where we make use of your configuration management. So configuration management can be used when you're working with hundreds of machines and you want to do something on all of these hundred of machines. So instead of connecting to these machines individually and then doing a task, we'll make use of this configuration management tool. We'll write a script. And when we execute that script, it gets executed on all the hundreds of your machines. Be it installing a software, be it upgrading a package, be it deploying an application, anything you want to do, you can do by making use of your configuration management. So configuration management, that's your system engineering process, which is mainly used for establishing and maintaining the consistency of your product's performance, functional and physical attributes with requirements, design and operational information throughout its life. So basically making sure all of your machines are consistent. Whatever you have on machine one, the same thing you should have on machine two, the configurations. So configuration management, it is simply managing the configuration of all of your assets, machines in this case. So this includes any end products that will be delivered to the customer, as well as the management products, such as your project management and performance management baseline. So basically making sure everything is up to date, be it your applications, be it your systems, be it your infra, whatever it is. So configuration management is an automated method for maintaining computer systems and software in a known, consistent state. So see, you can do it manually, right? The problem you have here is the time taken, the effort you have to put in to do it manually, and making sure all the machines are consistent. There might be cases, because we're doing it manually, there might be cases where we might forget to update some machines. So we don't have the consistency now. That can be overcome by making use of your configuration management tool. So configuration management is a way to make sure the system performs as it is expected to, as changes are made over time. So configuration management refers to the process of systematically handling the change to your systems in a way that it maintains integrity over time. So we're not going to do it manually, rather we'll do it systematically by making use of a script. So why do we need this? So configuration management, this mainly helps you to maintain the configuration of your product performance by keeping a record and updating detailed information which describes an enterprise's hardware and software. Such information typically includes exact versions and updates that have to be applied to installed software packages and the locations and network addresses of hardware devices. For example, let's say if you want to install a new version of WebLogic or WebSphere, which is an application, and you want to install this on all the servers that are present in your enterprise, that is across your organization. Really, it is not feasible for us to go to each of these machines manually and then start updating each of them one after the other. It's very difficult to do that. Now, that's where your configuration management comes in. So you can install your WebLogic or WebSphere, everything in one go on all of your machines by making use of your configuration management. And this can be done in the most simple way. So all you have to do is list out the IP addresses, the address of your remote machines, and then write a script telling that, hey, I want to install a WebLogic or WebSphere. And then when I run that script against the IP addresses, the script will get executed on all the remote machines. So whatever the instructions we had in that script, it will get executed on all of your remote machines. So your configuration management is about preventing issues so you don't have to deal with as many problems later. So, by making sure your systems are consistent, we can avoid lots of issues. Okay, we can avoid misconfigurations or breaking down of your machines. All those things can be avoided. Does it make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay.
Yes, Ravi.
So, for example, you can make sure that your test and production environments match. So, whatever you have in the test environment, the same configuration will be there in the production environment. That way, you'll have fewer problems with your applications once they're deployed that you would have if these environments weren't exactly the same. So, imagine your configuration files in your test environment and the configuration file in the production are different. Now, what happens when we deploy the application? Obviously, the deployment of the application will fail. Now, all those things we can overcome by making use of your configuration management. So when we talk about your configuration management tools, there are lots of tools that are available in the market. So we have your Ansible, we have Chef, Puppet, SaltStack, Juju. All these are your configuration management tools. So you will see very often people asking for Ansible or Chef or Puppet, either of these three. And Ansible is the most popular tool that you have right now. And that is what we are going to cover. Now, when we talk about your configuration management, majorly we have two types. Okay, so we have the push based and then we have the pull based. What's the difference between them? So let's talk about that. So under your pull based, what happens is, let's say we have our script in the version control tool. All right, you'll have your central server, which will pull the script from your version control system. And then your remote machines will have to pull the script and then execute it on the remote machines. So think of it like you have to update your OpenVPN client. You'll have to manually go and download the new package and then install it on your machine. So that is called as your pull based. And the other one we have is your push based, under which the server will push the package to the remote machines. That is, in this case, the corp IT will push the package to the individual machines. I don't have to worry about it. Right? So pull based in a way is completely automated. Okay, the remote machines will continuously keep on polling for new changes, and whenever it finds new changes, it will automatically download it and execute on the remote machines. But push based, there is a little manual intervention required. Okay, only when you manually execute the script, it will get executed on the remote machines. Until then, it won't get executed. Does this make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
Yes, Ravi.
So when we talk about, so with your how does your pull based work? There's an agent that gets installed on all of the remote machines. So your pull based, it requires your agent. Okay, without an agent, you cannot work with your pull based. Agents on the remote server periodically check for the configuration information from the central server. So the agents that we have installed on the remote machines, they will continuously check the central server for any new changes. So tools like Puppet and Chef follows your pull based architecture. And then you have the push based where there are no agents involved. So we're not installing anything on the remote machines. So central server will have to push the configuration to the remote machine. So we will have to manually execute this script. So you control when the changes are made on those servers. Ansible follows your push based architecture. Questions?
So whenever we are using that auto scaling, so like how does that work? Like when the new machines are created. So
Um, See, auto scaling is slightly different. Now, see, auto scaling is the whole point of your auto scaling is to scale up and scale down. That is to
scale down,
launch
yeah.
new machines and then terminate your old machines, right? Now, in your auto scaling, we have something known as your boot up script,
Okay.
right? Now, this boot up script can be used if you want to install something or update something. However,
Oh,
it's a one-time task. At a later point, let's say you get a new requirement. Now, that's where Ansible can be used.
okay. The machines like it's a, like minimum requirement machines like in auto scaling. There's something minimum. So on that machines we can use the auto scale. I mean Ansible and tools like configuration management, right?
Yeah. I mean, so anywhere you have lots of machines and like, let's say, for example, Java. Okay, so all of these
Okay.
machines are running Java. Let's say you have 500 machines where you have installed Java.
Okay.
Now you want to update Java on them. Auto scaling cannot do that.
Okay.
Okay, you'll have to make use of a configuration management tool for that.
Okay. Got it.
So what is Ansible? So Ansible is one of your most popular configuration management tool you have. We can use this to configure systems, deploy applications, and orchestrate more advanced IT tasks, such as continuous deployments or zero downtime rolling updates. So your Ansible, it provides you a lot of features that you can use based on your requirement. So Ansible, it's a very simple IT automation tool that you have. You can use this to provision, configure, application deployment, intra-service orchestration, and many other IT needs. So, you can also use Ansible to create infrastructure on AWS, like launch an instance, create a user, create a VPC. We can provision infrastructure. We can configure your remote machines. We can deploy your applications on the remote machines, right? So lots of things that can be done. Okay, then Ansible's main goal are simplicity and the ease of use. So how easily can you work with it? So it also has strong focus on security and reliability, featuring a minimum of moving parts and usage of open SSH for transport. So basically, if you're on Linux machine, then by default it uses your open SSH for connectivity, connecting to the remote machines. You also have other methods, but OpenSSH is the default one. So Ansible is appropriate for managing all your environments. It could be from small setups with a handful of instances, maybe 10, 20 instances, to enterprise environments with many thousands of instances. Okay, so you can use it for any purpose you want. And Ansible by default manages your machines over SSH if you're talking about your Linux machines. So once Ansible is installed, it will not add a database and there are no daemons to start or keep it running. You only have to install Ansible on one machine and it can start managing an entire fleet of remote machines from that central point. So even though any number of machines you want to manage, you have to install Ansible only on one machine. And we call that machine as your central machine. And then from that central machine, you can start managing all of your remote machines. Okay. Now, if you remember with the Docker installation, we also had your daemon, right, which is your server. With your Ansible, we don't have any of those things. All we have to do is install Ansible and done. We don't have to worry about the service. We don't have to worry about the daemons, nothing. Now, Ansible uses playbooks to describe your automation jobs, and playbook uses very simple language, that is your YAML. So the script that we write in Ansible, we call that as your playbooks. Okay, it's a terminology that we use in your Ansible. Okay, so whenever you will hear people, talking about playbooks, they're simply talking about the script in Ansible. Okay, and the script we write it in your YAML language, like same as your Docker file or your Docker Compose, where we make use of your YAML. Here also we make use of your YAML for that. Okay. So Ansible, like I said, it's your push-based architecture. It helps to automate the entire IT infrastructure by providing large productivity gains. And Ansible is designed for multi-tier deployment, and it does not manage one system at a time. It models IT infrastructure by describing all of your systems as interrelated. And Ansible is completely agentless. That means we don't have to install anything on the remote machines. And Ansible works by connecting to these machines through SSH, which is your default. However, it also supports another mechanism, which is your Kerberos. So if you want to use, you can use that also. But we will be looking at your OpenSSH for connectivity. Any questions?
No, Ravi.
So what your Ansible can do, it can help you with your configuration management. It can help you with your application deployment. It can help you with your task automation. It can also help you with your IT orchestration, wherein you have to run multiple tasks in sequence and then create a chain of events which must happen on several different server or devices. So think of it as job one, job two, job three, like a chain of events. If you want to do, you can do that also. So provisioning, so automating the infrastructure for applications. So like I said in the beginning, if you want to set up infrastructure on AWS, we can make use of your Ansible for that. We can use it to configure your servers. We can use it to deploy your applications. We can use it to manage your applications. All those things can be done. So let's talk about each of these one by one. So first we have is application deployment. So imagine you have a Java application or any container application itself, let's say. You can deploy that using Ansible. So it gives you the power to deploy multi-tier applications reliably and consistently, all from one common framework. So you'll just write a script with these instructions. So something like telling stop monitoring, remove the machines from the load balancing, stop all the services, deploy the application, and then repeat steps 3, 2, 1, which is start the service, add the machines to the load balancing, start monitoring. We'll add that script. When we execute it, it will get executed on your servers. If you want to do all the servers, you can do it. Or you want to do first 10 servers, then 10 servers, then 10 servers, you can do that also. That's your application deployment. Likewise, you can also set up your CI/CD, continuous delivery. So Ansible fits into an existing development practice and can be integrated into any workflow. One common way to use Ansible is calling it from your continuous integration system. For example, from Jenkins, you can do that. So you will write the code, okay? You will build it. From there, you trigger your Ansible, which will deploy it to your machines. Even that is possible. So this becomes your CI/CD. We are continuously integrating, continuously deploying it. We can make use of your Ansible for that also. You can also make use of it for configuration management. So Ansible configurations are simple data descriptions of your infrastructure, ensuring everyone on your team will be able to understand the meaning of each configuring task. So, like again, you're writing your configuration for those machines. So, imagine for app 2.0, you have some configuration. App 2.1, you have some configuration. App 2.2, some configuration. So, you can maintain your consistency for all of these applications that are running on your remote machines. You can do that also. Any questions?
No, Ravi.
Okay. Actually, in office, I am doing this only, Ravi. Even I will deploy the files to the servers, and for Tomcats, I will deploy these servers files.
Yes. So in your case, definitely have lots of machines,
Yeah, lots of
and then you
machines.
just write a script, and when you
Will
execute it,
execute,
it
then
gets
execute,
executed
then
on
we'll
all the.
stop. We'll stop the servers, and
Yes,
then we will deploy it. And then after deploying, we'll reset the servers.
correct, correct. So that's where Ansible is really useful, right? So now your work is much easier,
Yeah,
right?
but we won't use Ansible. Even we will connect to the we will use SSN. We will connect to the servers, and then we will deploy the files, war files, class files. That's all we'll do it.
Yeah. So see, that is more of a manual thing that you're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can automate that. I mean, see, that is you're doing it for individual machines, right?
Yes, 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 Ravi.
So you can avoid that. So let's say each machine takes 10 minutes, just for the sake of example.
Yes.
And let's say you have five machines. Okay. So 10 into 5, 50 minutes you'll have to spend.
Yes.
Now with Ansible, if you're doing it with Ansible, you may have to spend only 10 minutes for all the machines.
Okay, for all the machines we will stop and we will do with the load balance and then we will write the script and we will upload it.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You just write the script
Yes.
and then Ansible will do everything for you.
Okay.
Right? So it could
This is
be,
much easier than what now we are doing it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the whole point of using your configuration management.
Okay.
You don't have to see. Also, the problem with your manual thing is there are chances, high chances that you miss something,
Yes, Ravi.
right? Ansible is
Yes.
not that way. It's a
Okay.
script, all right? So whatever you have in one machine, the same you'll have on all the machines. So maybe this is something that you can propose and maybe you can implement if you're interested. But I would definitely do that if I was in your place.
Yeah, but they're not agreeing that.
See, no one will agree unless you do a POC, proof of concept. Show
Okay.
them a demo. Hey, we have this tool.
So
This is what we're doing currently, manually. Why can't we
uh,
automate it? Show them an example, show them a demo, and
okay.
then they might consider it.
So Ravi, let me do it. Let me try.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Uh, let's talk about your features. So one, the main feature you have is it's completely agentless. So we don't have to install anything on the remote machines. We have to install Ansible only on one machine, which is your central machine. Then it is built on top of Python. So Ansible, it is written in Python. So it has lots of your Python's functionality. It uses SSH for your connectivity by default if it's a Linux machines. Follows your push-based architecture for sending the configuration. So you will have to execute the script, and then very easy to set up and minimal requirements. Okay. Questions?
No,
No,
sir.
Ravi.
No, no.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Tomorrow we'll talk about your architecture, and then I'll also show you the installation, and then we'll look at examples as to how we can work with it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Ravi, I have a doubt.
Yes, Hedu.
In my current profile, we use like integration and on a pipeline, everything. I mean, but the software which we use is no code. So, if any way I can use this to develop the DevOps. in-
No, I did not understand, Hedu.
I mean, the current role we use pipeline integration, like I mean, work all the relative database in the same platform rather than doing I mean, gray management. We work it as a dynamic work management tool. Okay, So either can I use this profile to develop the DevOps skill, and um, if I need to switch the next company, I can go for the DevOps role, right? If I can.
Um, See, to be honest, I did not understand what your current role here is. I mean, as to what
Okay.
exactly you're doing and to what extent you're doing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
See, when I say AWS and DevOps, it's completely, getting your hands dirty. You'll be writing code. You'll be working with your networking component. You'll be launching machines, and you'll be doing automations basically. So any manual work, for example, let's say Bharat was telling them, that we are doing it manually, automating that work. That's what your DevOps as a DevOps you'll be doing. Okay. Now, if that is something that you're doing in your current role, then yeah, I mean, it would be an add-on. If not, then it's completely a new thing that you'll have to showcase in your next job. Like, hey, I've been working in DevOps. This is what I've been doing. These are the tools I've been using, and then start speaking in those terms. So you won't be telling like, okay, I'm working on a dynamic tool. It's a no-code tool. You won't be telling all those things. You'll be
Okay.
telling, I have an application. We have a project. We have a team. This application is running on AWS. We are using EC2 service. We're using VPC service. We're using S3 service. We're using IAM service. So those terms you'll have to tell. That is
Okay.
when your interviewer will understand, like, okay, you have experience with AWS, you have experience
Okay.
with ops, right?
Mm. Sure,
Um,
sure.
See, it does not matter what you're working on. It all comes down to how you're explaining it and what are the key words you're using when you're explaining it.
Okay.
But like I said, we'll talk about that. My
Mhm.
plan is, like I said, I definitely want to do some sessions on that, get you prepared, give you some idea how it works, what you can expect. So we'll definitely cover that as well.
So, and another thing is just a request from your team. Post January, can we keep on the morning sessions like what we used to do earlier? Because the thing is, I need to visit our office
Uh,
that most probably. So,
yeah, I think Bharat said he has Jan and Feb morning shift, right, Bharat? Is it morning shift or night shift?
Morning shift, Ravi.
Feb also?
I think this month end they will change. I think.
Okay, I think in that case we should be able to change it, Sedu.
Okay,
thank you, Ravi.
if they change, I will inform you, Ravi.
Yeah,
On
see if you
month end
can
only
change.
they will change.
Okay.
Okay, from last December and Jan, I am working in first shift. I think
Okay.
this month end they will change. I think, Ravi.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, please keep us posted.
Okay, Ravi, I will tell you.
We'll try to change that. Yes, Sedu, we'll try to get that changed.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. I'll see you
Thanks.
tomorrow then.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Bye.